Parasha Vayaher. I subtitle it Passing on the Banner. To pass on the banner. And what does it mean? Parasha Vayaher means, and he assembled. To gather the people together. In Judaism, it is not sufficient just to learn about the mitzvah in its theoretical context. One has to physically perform it in the real world for it to count. Indeed, it is said that one who does not perform the Torah is study, his Torah is of no value. Indeed, it is said, he that studies the Torah and does not perform what is in the Torah, to him is of no value. It's just like you are reading some storybook. But the Torah is not a storybook. It's a plan of life. Thus, the Torah repeats the matter in this parasha to stress the importance of the actual building of the sanctuary of the Mishkan by the children of Israel in order to make a place for Adonai to dwell on this physical world. God transcending from the metaphysical world to the physical world. A place of abode in the lower world for Adonai. The Mishkan is completed in this portion, and the Torah recaps the stunning accomplishment. These are the reckoning of the Mishkan. The tabernacle of testimony that was reckoned through Moshe bidding. And Bezalel, sons of Uri, sons of Hur, did everything that Adonai commanded Moshe. That was Exodus chapter 38 from verse 21 and 22. But the Torah also called the Mishkan a tabernacle of testimony. To what is this testifying? The Torah called the Mishkan tabernacle of testimony. What is it testifying about? Is it testifying about the architectural ability? Or is it testifying about the fundraising phenomenon? Or perhaps something even bigger? We remember in the parasha, it said that, and every man and every woman that his heart moved him come to donate for the construction of the Mishkan. Rashi tells us that the Mishkan in fact testified that Adonai forgave the children of Israel for the sins of the golden calf. We have to remember, 2 weeks ago, right? Or last week was the sin. Last week was the sin of the golden calf. When we read in the parasha Kitzesar about the what? About the sin of the golden calf. But we have to remember when God said, "Remove from me, let me destroy these people, let me consume them, let me scatter them. I'm going to destroy them." And Moshe began to plead. I was telling us back then that God himself was trying to see who Moses is. God is another test for Moshe. God in his mercy has already forgiven Israel. God will not destroy his people. It was a test for Moshe. Because Moses every time always come to God and say, "Your people, God, this is your people that you brought out from the land of Egypt." Yeah, it is God's people, of course. But God is trying to let Moses see that, listen, this is not my people alone, this is your people. Because in this case, Moshe is trying to say, okay, I am not responsible, God. I am just a what? I am just a messenger. God, you are the one that is responsible for these people. It is not me. I am just a person that you are using to lead them. I don't want to be responsible for anything. But God is saying, no, that is not the case here. No, that won't work. You are responsible. Moses threw the responsibility towards God. And God said, no, come, let's talk. You are responsible. And when Moses saw the power of God, he said, no, God, please don't destroy them. If you are going to kill them, if you are going to destroy them, remove my name from the book of life, but spare these people. So Moses actually brought out himself. Moses actually self-sacrificed himself in place of the people. And God said, of course, now you see? Can you see now that these people are not only my people, but these are your people. You brought them, you are responsible for them. Now in this parasha, God, before the sin of the golden calf, God knew and God knew perfectly well that the people will sin. That is for sure. He knows. And before that time, God has given them the remedy. There is an antidote for the poison. Because sin is a poison. Sin is a virus that goes inside the body and destroys the body from within. It's not something that is physical. It goes inside the body and destroys the organs from within. But God has already provided a medicine, a counter virus, to destroy that virus. And the counter virus that God has provided was the Mishkan. According to our sages, God said that our sages said that for God knew that the people will come and do what? And donate generously for the building of the Mishkan. God has already known that these people, yes, they commit sin, they do some things that is wrong, but that is good in them. God is not like a man. You see, every day you do what is good. Every day you do everything is fantastic. But one day you do something that is wrong to your friend. Your friend will forget all the good things that you've been doing and just take hold only on that negativities. And take hold only on that bad thing that you do. He did this to me. He did that to me. He did this wrong. La 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 la. But he has forgotten all the good things that you have been doing for the past 200 years. God is not like that. God sees that the people will donate generously for the building of the Mishkan. He knows that there's something good in them. He knows that there's something fantastic in them. He knows that these people, if you train them well, if you guide them well, if you direct them well, they will be a great people. They will be the nation of priests. They will be through which the Messiah will come to save the entire planet. So our rabbi is saying that the Mishkan was the antidote for the sin of the golden calf. We hear from the Torah, all men came, all women came. Not men alone, women. It is not, people think that it is men alone that built the Mishkan. No! Women were among them. Women were the ones that sewed with their hands all the dyes. You know, all the goat skin, the ram skin, all the weaving, all made by women. That God has given the wisdom. God didn't give wisdom only to the men. The Torah said, and women that God has given knowledge and wisdom to weave with all kind of craft. These women they did. Men and women, everybody combined effort together to build the Mishkan. What is it Torah telling us there? Torah is saying that it doesn't depend on one man. It's not only because of one man, but it depends on each and every one of us. The kingdom of God is for every one of us. Men, women, children, everybody are responsible. There are a lot of responsibility to be done in the Mishkan. People think, to build a synagogue, to have a synagogue is just for me to come as a rabbi and stand and start preaching. Or and start explaining the parasha. No. That think that there is something even more included. There is a lot of responsibility. The life of the people are in your hand, especially their spiritual and their physical life. Advices that you have to give to them. It's not just standing at the pulpit and say, okay, you are preaching, or I say you are explaining the Torah to them. No, the work of the rabbi is more than that. You are responsible, primarily responsible for the people. The work of the Mishkan, the work of the synagogue is enormous. So it takes each and every one of us. We have to combine our hands together, not just only leaving everything for the rabbi. Everybody has to combine effort to build the Mishkan. Forgiveness comes with a correction of a misdeed. Obviously, each account needs direct redress. Stinginess is forgiving with an act of magnificence. The generous donation of the children of Israel toward the building of the sanctuary was critical in Moses receiving atonement for them from Adonai. Adonai saw what they would donate in the future, and he forgave them even before they donated. Can you see that? Adonai see what the children of Israel will do in the future, and before they donate, he has forgiven them. Because he knows that these people is going to use them. They are going to come with their heart. They are going to donate to the Lord for the building of the Mishkan. It wasn't easy. It was a lot of work. People, children, men, women, as I explained, everybody combined their hands together to build the Mishkan. And so, if there is a sin, there must be a forgiveness. If someone did something that is wrong, and the person comes sincerely with all his heart or with all her heart, asking you to forgive, coming for teshuvah, the Lord, the most merciful, the Lord, the most compassionate, the Lord, the most gracious. He is the Lord who is gracious to all. He will come when you come before him and you seek him in truth and in spirit. He will be there to forgive your iniquities. As a symbolic act in memory of the children of Israel building the sanctuary in the wilderness, immediately after the Yom Kippur, it is a customary for every Israel to begin erecting the sukkah, which is the tabernacle booth. Immediately after the feast of Yom Kippur, as a place for Adonai to dwell over the festival of Sukkot. So it's a remembrance for the children of Israel. Immediately after the Yom Kippur, we have a Sukkot. It's a representative of the what? Of the sanctuary, where God descended in the physical world to dwell. What connection does the building of the Mishkan have with the forming of the golden calf? Why is the completion of the Mishkan a testimony to absolution? The verse is also a disconcerting about Bezalel. What did he do? Did he not do what Moshe told him? It seems that he jumped the chain of command. He should have stated that Bezalel did what Moshe told him, but the Torah said Bezalel did what God told Moshe. Parashat Vayecher Moshe. The entire congregation of the children of Israel, the Ramban explained that Moses gathered them to tell them about the Mishkan. Moshe has been commanded about the Mishkan before the sin of the golden calf and the subsequent breaking of the tablet. Now that the second tablet has been given and the relationship has been restored to the point that the presence of God, the Shekinah, will again agree to rest among them. Moshe now commanded them about the details of the Mishkan. These are the things referring to the construction of the Mishkan, its vessels and the services performed there that Adonai had commanded to do. 6 days you shall labor. 6 days you shall do your work, but the 7th day shall be holy, a holy rest for you. God is saying, even though if you are building the Mishkan, Shabbat, you must keep it. No any work must be done on Shabbat. You must rest. You must stop what you are doing. Even though you are building the Mishkan, you must stop and rest. What is God saying? Some people will come and say, oh, you know what? I'm doing the work of God too. Right? They say, okay, the work of God override the Shabbat. No. The Shabbat override all. You can't say, oh, because I'm doing the work of God, the only thing that you can do on Shabbat according to the Torah is to save life. That is it. Apart from saving life, you cannot break the Shabbat. The Torah said, the only thing that can break the Shabbat is to save life. Let's say, for example, if you're a doctor, a medical doctor, right? Of course, you have to, and your work is on Shabbat, and your job is to save life. You go and save life, but you need to understand, according to our tradition, the money that you make, you donate it for charity. You donate it to the temple. If you are a nurse, your job is to assist the doctor to save life. Of course, you go. The money that you make on the Shabbat, it is not yours. You give it to charity or you donate it to the synagogue. You are a fireman, for example. You have to work on the Shabbat, right? Because there might be fires anywhere. You don't know. Your job is to go to your work. You save lives. That is the only thing that you can use to break the Shabbat. Apart from that, even though you are working in the synagogue, you cannot do any work to break the Shabbat. God is telling the children of Israel explicitly right away. Say no. Even though you are building the Mishkan, that is why the first thing he said was, 6 days shall you work. The 7th day you shall rest. A Shabbat, a complete Shabbat, Shabbaton to the Lord thy God. What's the meaning of Shabbat? Shabbat means literal meaning of Shabbat. People think Shabbat means rest. It doesn't mean rest. No, that's not what it means. The literal meaning of Shabbat means to strike. To strike. If you are on strike. That is the literal meaning of Shabbat. On that day, on that 7th day, you are striking. No work. Nothing is done. It's not you can say, okay, I rest for 1 hour, I go again and do some other thing. No. On the Shabbat you are striking. God strike on the 7th day. He stop all his work. To stop doing the work, you strike. You don't touch anything. That is what God is saying. No fire shall be kindled in your camp. No fire shall be kindled. You are in a complete striking time. You are resting. You are only you and your family. It's a family time. Reprogram yourself, because God, the designer, knows that your brain has to be reprogrammed. If you continue to work, you are going to destroy all the program. You go mad. One day for yourself, relax, calm down, cool down. Then you can have more energy, more strength to continue. Alright, so let's continue now. The Talmud in Shabbos 70a takes this connection between Shabbos and Mishkan much further. It derives from the above quoted word. These are the things. The 39 malachot, or form of constructive action, which are forbidden on Shabbat. This parallel the 39 malachot used in the construction of the Mishkan. There is a clear parallel and association between Shabbos and Mishkan. In order for us to truly emulate Adonai, we need to abstain on the 7th day from the work that Adonai has employed us during the 6 days of creation. That is rendering impossible by the fact that it was Adonai's will which brought the world into the state of creation, and not any form of work present within a realm of existence. What is that saying? Adonai is saying it is the will of Adonai that brought the world into existence. It is not by any work. It is not by any activities. It is not by any pushing. God said, let there be this, and it comes to pass. God said, let there be that, and it came to pass. It was a tremendous work. It was an action through His word. But He's saying that on the seventh day, God went on strike. And likewise, you, as his children, must go on strike on the seventh day. Rest, so that your body can regenerate. The creation is called something from nothing. In Hebrew, it's called yesh me'ayin. Something from nothing. We don't create anything. We simply form and reshape already existing material. Yesh, which means things from things. No person creates anything. We don't create anything. Everything has been created. What we do as human is just to reshape, reorganize, and do what? The existing materials. What God has given us, we redo them, we reshape them, we remanufacture them in different forms, in different patterns, in different ways. Sometimes we might take away one molecule, add another molecules, remove another molecules, add another molecules. But the materials, the basic material are already there. You don't create anything because you are not a creator. You cannot create anything. Everything has been created by God. What we do is to reshape, to repattern all the existing materials. So, and our Medrash said the only time in creation that man has come very, very close to creating is the building of the Mishkan. When they did what? When they built everything from the ground up. He said the building of the Mishkan was a direct replica of the creation in the beginning. So we can see the three colors that the Torah talks about. The Torah talks about blue. The Torah talks about what? Purple. And the Torah talks about what? Scarlet, which means red. What does that mean? What's the meaning of those three colors? They're very important. They are not just stated there like that. Blue is a representative of what? Of the heavens. Red, the scarlet, is what? Red, the scarlet, is the earth, is man. Man is red. Man is from the earth. Earth is red. Then, purple is what? Purple, if you mix blue and red together, you get what? You get purple. The purple represents the Mishkan. The purple is the Messiah. The purple is through where we get salvation. The purple is one that brings us salvation, deliverance. You can get your deliverance, the forgiveness in the Mishkan. Because the Mishkan is a metaphysical mixing with the physical. When you mix them together, when you mix the blue and what? And red, you get purple. Mishkan is a purple. Is the gate, is the middle between the supernatural world, the metaphysical world, and the physical world. In the Mishkan, both of them mix together. So that is what Adonai is telling us. That in the Mishkan, where the holiest of holies is, where the metaphysical world descended into the physical world, there we have mercy, forgiveness of sin, forgiveness from our trespasses, forgiveness for everything that we might have done wrong. Where the presence of God comes to speak to man, mouth by mouth. The Mishkan actually paralleled the creation in an even more basic sense. The purpose of both was to have Adonai present rest upon the lower rim. Through the Mishkan, Adonai presence was meant to rest not simply on the building, but rather on each and every one of us. It is not only on the physical building, no, but on each and every one of the children of Israel. He said, "Make for me a mishdash, and I will dwell among you." He didn't say, "I will rest upon them." No, he said, "Among you." In the Mikdash, in the Mishkan, God, the presence of God, is resting over His people. He's spreading His wings to cover them, to protect them, to guide them, to lead them in the way of life. Upon it, Shabbat is the time of perfection, the time when Adonai's presence is revealed in the creation and upon us. Shabbat is a special time. It's a special duty for the children of Israel. It's an eternal bond between us and our Creator. That on the seventh day we also go on strike. He said it's a commandment, it's a mitzvah forever. Now on the Shabbat, we are not coming on the Shabbat to praise the Messiah. We are not coming on the Shabbat to come and be thanking one Messiah. No! On the Shabbat is the day of Adonai Himself, the Lord, the Most High. It's the day that will come to perform that mitzvah which Adonai has given us, that said on the Shabbat you shall go on strike. A day of complete rest. A day of total strike for the entire people. And no fire shall be kindled in your midst. You shall rest with your family. You shall enjoy yourself. You shall praise the Lord thy God. For that day is the day when the heavens, the metaphysical world, come down to relate to man. The 7th day shall be holy, a Shabbat for Adonai. Commentary explain that the sin of the golden calf began with Moses, when Moses did not return from Mount Sinai on time. The minute that 40 days elapsed and Moshe was missing, the nation panicked. No one they felt could lead them but Moshe. So they created a false deity and they prayed and danced to a newfound God. The Mishkan, however, was an antidote. Moshe charged Bezalel with the tremendous task, and he accomplished it. In fact, as said, explained that he even challenged Moses in certain directives, and Adonai concurred with him. After the 40 days has passed and the people did not see Moshe, they thought, "Oh, no, the man is missing in action. Where is Moshe Rabbeinu? Where is Moshe the Savior? Oh, no, maybe he's dead on the mountain. Oh, maybe some white animal has chewed him alive on the mountain. And so therefore we need somebody to lead us." The people panicked and there was fear everywhere. Why? Because to them, Moshe is everything. To them, Moshe was like God. To them, Moshe is life. That is that good or bad? It depends on the perspective that you see it. It depends from the angle that you are watching it from. Yes, it is good for a leader to be a leader like Moshe, a man of God that directs the people in the way of life. A man that communicates with God mouth with mouth. A man that has a very complete intimacy with the Most High. That is very, very fantastic. But if you look at it from some other point, these are young people, young nation just growing up, just coming up. And the leader that they know is missing in action. Of course, they panic because there is no any other leader that they can stand with and say, okay, he's going to lead us. Moshe was the only one. So, and I don't want to be like that. That is why God is asking us to raise men, raise women to serve Him. If I go out to go and preach, let's say in Ontario, to go and minister, let's say in South America, to go and minister, let's say in Africa, there will be somebody here who is going to do what? Who is going to give the parasha. The synagogue cannot close down because the rabbi is not around. The synagogue cannot close down because the rabbi is in Israel. No, there must be somebody who has to give the parashas. So that's why we have to do what? We have to raise new leadership. We have to raise young men, young women, young people who are going to combine hands together to build the Mishkan. Moshe alone did not build the Mishkan. Neither did Bezalel alone build the Mishkan. There were men and women, everybody combined hands together to build the Mishkan. He, in the sense of Bezalel, he had the ability to perform as he has received the directive himself. That is in the goal of the Mesorah. Tradition has the next generation holding the torch. True, though passed from the previous leader as if were passed from the Almighty Himself. The nation saw that it was possible to continue despite the former leader holding up in the world every step of the way. There is a room for young leadership to carry on the directive of the elder generations. That is the way the Torah carries on, and that is the way we hold up the world. We have to pass the banner from us to our children, from our children to their children, from their children to their children. That is how the Torah is passed on. So that is how the Torah will never fail. That's how the Torah will never stop. We have to pass the banner. It's like when the people are running relay 4 by 400 meters or 4 by 100 meters. You see them, the men, they run, they have the banner. They run and they pass it on. The other one run, they pass it on to that and they go down. So that is the same principle here. We have to pass on the banner of the Torah. It is not for one person alone. One man cannot carry the whole load. I cannot carry the whole load. I always pray to the Lord, please carry the load. I can carry it alone. I am just human like you. I am human like every one of us. I have blood running in my vein. I have bones and flesh. I am weak. I am not that superhero that the Greek are calling their Jesus. I am not superhero. I am human like you. We all depend upon the glory and the power of the Holy One to carry us through. So it is God Himself, it is Adonai Elohim that carry us through. So we all have to combine our hands together, all the men, all the women at Kehillah Beth Israel, to push on, to continue building the Mishkan. Keeping of the Shabbat is the cornerstone of our faith. As we men are creator, in the day He created something from nothing. We men, we do like our Creator. We rest. The cornerstone of our faith, the faith of our fathers, is the Shabbat. We have to rest on the Shabbat. And secondly, sincere teshuvah cleansed from the most grievous sin, as it is said, the Lord, the most merciful, the Lord, the most gracious, the Lord, the most compassionate. When we come with the true teshuvah, His strength came, they realized their iniquities. they realized their sin, they realized what they did wrong, Moshe prayed and God answered. Moshe prayed and God forgave them. Moshe cried before the Holy One and God wiped the tears of Moshe by forgiving the iniquities and the grievous sins of the people. What is that sin that you think it is unforgivable? There is nothing unforgivable. Nothing. If we sincerely come in Teshuvah, if we sincerely come in what? In repentance before the Holy One. If we sincerely come and say, please, like our father David, I will no longer do this again. This is it. I will not repeat it again. God, please, for the sake of your name, for the sake of your mercy, forgive me. You cry before Him, He will forgive you. That is nothing impossible before the Holy One. All things are possible. Parasha Vayeher, and He assembled. The Holy One is assembling His people. He said, on that day, Yehuda shall stand, and Joseph shall stand. Yehuda and Joseph shall be one, and Israel shall be complete. On the day when the Holy One will descend, He said, the stick of Judah and the stick of Ephraim, which is Joseph, shall be combined together. That in the day of the Messiah. I will pray for that day to come quickly. Shabbat Shalom.